Welcome to Open Your Reality. I'm Chad. The origins of consciousness. Did you ever stop to think where our consciousness comes from? Because it certainly doesn't come from physical matter. If you're new to spirituality and aren't familiar with MBT theory, the law of one, or similar ideas, this information is going to be quite an eye-opener. And even if you know about MBT, which stands for My Big Theory of Everything, this video will surely give you insight and fill in a few of the missing details to complete your picture. The information here is a summation of a video Tom Campbell recorded in 2017. To me, this is one of the most important videos Tom ever made and a key piece in understanding his theory and our reality. Now, this is going to be sort of a podcast style. It's going to be a long video, and it's going to be a little bit detailed, but stay with me because I think you'll find a lot of value in it. So before getting into it, I should define consciousness so we're all on the same page. Tom defines it as intelligent awareness with memory, capable of feelings, emotions, imagination, creativity, and of course, potential. Each one of us has a unique consciousness that is colored by our own experiences, preferences, and qualities. This consciousness is not part of your body, and it has extraordinary capabilities if you train it correctly. This is why most adept monks and yogis have paranormal abilities. They've simply trained their consciousness for many years. And this is why the Buddhists always say, you are not your body. It's not just a pretty poetical Zen saying. It's actually true. As I consider how I'm going to present this information, I realize this video is going to be a bit more complex than I originally devised. I'll be getting into some deep concepts of MBT that you may never have thought about before, but which are utterly fascinating. For when it comes to all the different areas Tom speaks of, this is the one that intrigues me the most. I find the origins of consciousness to be absolutely mind-blowing because it essentially explains everything, how we arrived here and for what purpose. We have a lot of terrain to tread in this video. I'm going to go step by step in as logical a progression as possible to make the information as simple as I can. Alright, so here it goes. In the beginning, before there were people and worlds and dimensions, there was this single unitary consciousness, and I'll here on out refer to it as the prime consciousness. This prime consciousness, though it had free will and was intelligent, was very limited in the choices it could make. Nothing existed besides it. So the prime consciousness had no interactions and basically couldn't really make that many choices. This resulted in a very poor potential for growth, and growth is necessary, even essential, for its survival. Why? I don't know exactly, but that's what Tom says, so I'm going with it. Now, Tom doesn't know who or what created the prime consciousness, or perhaps it existed all along, or maybe there was nothing before or beyond it. Tom can't answer those questions, and he doesn't even try. He feels them best left unsaid, as any answer would be pure speculation on his part. Certainly the great religions of the world have tried to answer that question, and it always returns to God, the creator, or the infinite source of everything. Personally, I think it's just turtles all the way down. Nope, I'm just joking, of course. Just a little open your reality humor here to lighten the mood. Now, being aware of its very limited breadth and depth, the prime consciousness devised an ingenious strategy to help itself evolve. Don't you want to know what that is? Well, it decided to break itself off into many separate pieces that could actually interact with each other. And not only interact with each other, but with prime consciousness as well. And this would allow for a huge number of interactions in the hope of learning and evolving at a much quicker rate. You see, before this plan was put into place, The prime consciousness was not very evolved. It existed all alone, and it was very advanced intellectually, kind of like a gray alien, but had hardly evolved at all at the being level. And the being level is where love and feelings reside. Tom says, in terms of its being level, it was at the baby level, like just a baby. Prime consciousness's journey towards love and evolution, it really just started when it enacted its plan of creating all these many smaller, what Tom calls individuated units of consciousness, or the acronym IUOC. That's what MBT theory calls individuated units of consciousness. These are basically separate pieces of consciousness, like you and me. Now, before prime consciousness even created these IUOC, it needed a place for them to go. That's just kind of logical, right? So it created a physical matter reality. And what this is a virtual reality construct, and the acronym is PMR, physical matter reality. So if you hear me say that, that's what I mean. And the original physical matter reality prime consciousness created wasn't like our world on Earth. You know, it didn't have countries and trees and things like that, perhaps, but it was more akin to the astral realm. And that's where things are more fluid and less dense. By creating this original physical matter reality, boy, that's a mouthful, prime consciousness simultaneously did something else. It created the illusion of time and space. This is because all PMRs require time and space to exist. Because without time and space, you have nothing. There can be no illusion of separation and duration without them. So how exactly prime consciousness created the PMR and the individuated units of consciousness is not really known, but Tom likens everything that prime consciousness does to a digital information system. So in a way, everything that exists, perhaps with the exception of our consciousness, is just a virtual construct. It doesn't really exist. Personally, the more I explore MBT theory, though, the more it seems that the prime consciousness might just be a super advanced artificial intelligence rather than a celestial or organic god. But then again, what do I know? So on with our theory, my friends. So when the IUOC entered the original PMR, you like all those acronyms? It was a place of beauty and safety, just like heaven. Most likely none of the IUOC had bodies at that point, and they kind of existed as orbs of energy that could move around and communicate with each other. Tom didn't exactly say the IUOC were orbs of energy with no bodies. He didn't really say that, but he, kinds of implied it. Because humans, animals, and other life forms like aliens, I know what people love when I say aliens, only emerged after billions, billions, like 1,000 million, years of evolution in other PMRs the prime consciousness created later. Okay? So in the beginning, there were no bodies. So it's safe to assume that in the beginning, there were no bodies. Didn't I just say that? So how did they interact, right? If they don't have bodies, they don't have mouths, they don't have ears or eyes, well, they communicated telepathically. And that's the way it's done in the astral world, okay? Don't ask me. Don't ask me how. It's just done like that. So, of course the IUOC were still aware of their surroundings, even though they didn't have ears and eyes. They just knew. I don't know, they just know. And here on Earth, we have eyes and ears, but, in the astral world, you just kind of have a sense of what's going on. So in that original PMR, there was no need for all the things we need here on Earth. Money, food, housing, transportation, YouTube views, or any of the other mundane things associated with earthly life. All existence was safe and cozy. Nothing could hurt, destroy, or harm an IUOC, and it was effectively immortal. Now this all sounds fantastic, and most of you probably long to get back to that place again. Well, concern yourself not, my friends. We're all one day going to experience it again, as this is where you'll find yourself after the so-called death, in quotation marks, of your earthly physical body. This probably explains why we feel that this original PMR is our natural home. We think of it as such because it's really the first and only reality that we experienced when our souls were created. Life on Earth, in that sense, is foreign to us, brutish, barbaric, and filled with never-ending threats of danger and death. It sounds horrendous, but it's all very necessary to our growth as souls, you see. Alright, did you get all that? Let's recap. The prime consciousness split itself into many separate pieces of consciousness to help itself evolve faster. Before doing that, it created an original physical matter reality for the pieces of consciousness to inhabit. This PMR created the illusion of time and space. The IUOC can then experience what it's like to exist with free will, separate from the creator in a place and time of its own. Okay, got it? By the way, the prime consciousness and us, and by the way, prime consciousness is a saying that, I came up with. Okay, so I'm contributing something here too. Well, basically, this prime consciousness and us, we share the same mind. That's right. Tom says we were made in its image, and we're basically a chip off the old block. Did you ever think about that saying? Tom likes to say that saying a lot, and yeah, kind of works. And since the prime consciousness is us and we are it, we are kind of always connected to it. Not kind of, we actually are, as well as to each other. That's why when you smite, don't ever smite or hurt another being, even if it's a harmless little animal. You're actually hurting yourself and the entire system at that. So leave that poor harmless creature alone and be good to everyone, please. Alright, now back to the video. So originally, prime consciousness was pleased with its creation and sat back to view its progress. However, don't just rest on your laurels, because as we'll see in a minute, that feeling didn't last very long, as there were some serious monkey wrenches in the system. You didn't think everything could go smoothly, that easily, did you? Tom calls the entire system the LCS, which is an acronym for the Larger Consciousness System. This is an important term in MBT theory. This LCS is comprised of prime consciousness, all of the IUOC, all trillions of them, and all the physical matter realities it created. There could be dozens, hundreds, thousands of them. We're not sure. Keep in mind, the only thing that's fundamental or real is consciousness. PMRs, man, they're like subway trains. They come and go, come and go, come and go. But consciousness always remains intact. It's always here. It may have always been here and probably always will be. By the way, if you notice I'm being a little different in this video, I'm doing it on purpose. The reason that I'm changing my voice up is because if I spoke to you in my normal voice for 25 minutes like this, you probably wouldn't be so attentive. But by changing things up like this, I'm trying to make the information filter into you a little bit better. Trying to keep you around. Trying to keep you entertained. Alright? So, just letting you know. So the prime consciousness discovered through trial and error, and probably a bunch of it, that the IUOC in the original PMR was not doing that much to evolve the system. This is because the IUOC had no skin in the game, so to speak. They couldn't get hurt. There was nothing at stake. Tom says, and he says this a lot, it's like a bunch of users being in a big chat room. In a chat room, you can sit at your computer all day and night typing anything you want without consequence. It doesn't matter how hurtful those messages are to others, just like those people who leave me those negative comments. I know you people. There is no fear of danger or retribution. And in that sense, there's really no karma either. By the way, you want to hear a cool saying? My karma ran over your dogma. Ha! Always like that bumper sticker. So prime consciousness took note of all this, and it decided, you know what? I got to improve upon this. And it did this by constructing other PMRs, these other virtual worlds and universes that could evolve animal and human-like bodies. And this took many, many attempts by prime consciousness because, like I said, it's not perfect. And it probably took tens of thousands, maybe millions of attempts over the course of billions of years. But you know what? It finally got it right. Who really knows how many times our universe was created and destroyed? until prime consciousness got it right, because when a universe was made and life couldn't develop, it probably just scrapped it. And the conditions of life here in this universe are razor thin. But the prime consciousness kept tweaking it until it figured it out. There's no doubt that prime consciousness is absolutely brilliant. You thought Einstein was smart. This thing will blow it away. But it's far from perfect and ideal. So during this stage, prime consciousness was still in diapers. A baby, metaphorically speaking. Now, I can tell you, because I personally speak to it every day, it has come an awful long way since that time. And prime consciousness is now billions of years more advanced than many of the IUOC it created. Now, why is that? That's because it was around for billions of years before we were around. And in a way, it's waiting for all of us to catch up. And our failures or successes impact the LCS more than we realize. So if you want to level up the system, simply level up yourself. Now, to continue with the story, once a number of these physical matter realities were up and running, and the initial conditions of life were finally figured out, they evolved and spawned life. Each PMR was unique and evolved differently. We live in this universe. I consider this universe one PMR. You can think of each one as a separate universe in itself. In our PMR, or universe, first came the Big Bang. We all know about that Big Bang. And what happened after that? There came a cooling of this matter into eventually star systems, and planets, and moons, and suns, and eventually life formed. And in the beginning phases of our universe, Tom believes prime consciousness actually played all the beings that were created in them. Like bacteria, or maybe some type of simplistic organism. But at this point, you may be wondering what I'm talking about. I mean, this is where it gets a little tricky, so let me do my best to explain. Those of you who are spiritual know where I'm going with this. So imagine that our universe is a few billion years old, which is young for a universe, probably like around, early teenage years. And primitive life forms and animals have recently evolved to a point of being conscious. Well, I'm going to end the video right here because, well, it's getting to be very long. So I'm going to put out a part 2 tomorrow. If you're watching this far in the future, or even near in the future, part 2 is already out. So just click over here somewhere and you should be able to see it. Thank you for tuning in. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel because I'd like you to. And I'll see all of you guys in the next video, which will be part 2, coming soon.